primary responsibility is to ensure that the building is available, functional, and accessible. The building is very, very old. It was completed in around 1914. It was declared a heritage site in 1960s. So the building has got the features of a heritage nature, as I've mentioned, your mosaic, your coping, as well as outside, especially the facade of the building is of heritage nature. The windows, both the wooden and the steel windows, are of a heritage nature. The building was built longly for as a city council of the city of Johannesburg. But over the years, the GPL bought the building to turn it into the Gauteng Parliament or Gauteng Legislature building. So Selborne Hall was converted to form the sitting or the house or chamber that is known today. So over the years, the building has taken the beating, as you know, it's old. Therefore, the evolution of the office space also come into play and the requirements to modernize the building. As you understand that this building was built at a time when the technology was not yet sophisticated or advanced. Therefore, these walls cannot accommodate, for example, your Wi-Fi because they are thick. It was meant for partial fire resistant. Nowadays we call what we call active fire resistant. Active fire resistance, we're talking about your fire detectors, your fire hydrant, but in the past they used the wall to separate or to delay the fire. Therefore, out of that we had a serious problem of building not complying to the requirements, because legislature like your Act 107 of 1977 or 06 of 1977, the National Building Regulation was promulgated in around 1970s, as I've mentioned. Therefore, the building was built before the promulgation of that. And as I've mentioned earlier on, the evolution of the office space. Therefore, we had to look into bringing the building to the required standard. In order to do that, we first undertook what we called the conditional assessment exercise, as it requires, it's a requirement in terms of asset management, fixed asset management. Then after doing that, it came to our attention that there are many things that need to be fixed, starting with your lifts, starting your roofs, your HVAC system, and all other part of that. Therefore, with that requirements and with the amount of money that is going to be required to do that, so the institution has to look into this thing and say the best option that we can follow is to come up with a project that will assist us addressing these things at one. Also solve the risk of operating from the two buildings, because now we've got two buildings where we're paying rental, but the building also where we were renting, it does not meet the required standard. Therefore, the condition assessment report suggested that we undertake the feasibility study to determine if the building can accommodate everyone, or we can build the building next to it. Therefore, also taking into consideration of the advancement of the technology, your teams and all those things that insist that people can operate wherever they are in the building. Therefore, the institution took a decision to appoint the GFA or to come up with a project called a Space Optimization Project. The Space Optimization Project, its aim, the primary objective, is to check the existing building if it can accommodate everyone. Secondly, look into various options such as building another building next to this one and the parking next to us. We call them Heidhof-Meyer parking or Bayard-Nodier Square. Also to buy an existing, what we call the brown building, an existing building in and around the vicinity and all that. So this feasibility study went out to explore those options, and then the best option was to say that we as the legislature, we're going to use the existing building, maximize it, moving from what we call the private office space to an open plan, hot desking as in the modern business. Because the lessons that we learned from COVID is that we do not need much spaces that we are currently using. Therefore, the new norms and standard that was published by the government, it also allows us to can now look into the private offices and move to the what you call the open plan. Therefore, these processes will start with a feasibility study that started in around 2017 until the final approval for GFA in 2019. Therefore, the memorandum of understanding was entered into between GPL and GFA. So GFA went out to explore that. So the project started and the feasibility study was completed in March 2023. Therefore, the next phase is to get approval from the Treasury and also to get the procurement plan. Therefore, the implementations, once the funding is secured, will complete it in 2024 December. So this is how this project came about. So the project will look into a number of issues: how we have done the building, how the building is currently being is optimized in terms of space, whether the library is sitting in the right place, whether the offices, the way they are configured, are correctly configured, but taking into consideration the norms and standards. And this will address many challenges that we have in the building. Like our ablution facilities are old and are using old systems that need to be repaired. But when we do that, we need to take into consideration that the building is a heritage, that there are certain part of the building that we cannot touch, and there are those that we can touch. So the project will try to address those other issues that we have and ensure that we are compliant with prerequisite legislature. Let's know each and every building is required by law to have to be ready for any evacuation in an event of emergency, where there's either a fire or there is a threat for bomb or whatever. So in our building, we've got a safety and security division that deals with those parts to ensure that the building is ready and compliance with that. Then we've got our control in the building, which can be contacted at 011 298 6342. That is the number that you can call for you if you are stuck maybe in the lift or you're stuck in any part of the building and you need assistance. That is our control. It's operating 24 hours. Then they will assist you with that. As I've mentioned earlier about GFA, it might be difficult, people don't know what GFA stands for. The GFA stands for Government Infrastructure Financing Agency. It's an agency of Gauteng provincial government that is assisting them in implementing difficult projects or projects that are of technical nature. They are very complex projects where the government does not have the capacity to handle projects of that magnitude, like in our case where GPL does not have the capacity to deal with the project of this magnitude. So we have called the GFA to come and assist us. Thanks.